J-Tech Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. It's America's favorite game show podcast. Tell them what they've won. And now, here are your hosts, Tom Bastek and Mike Jacobs.
Hello and welcome in. It's America's favorite game show podcast, Tell Them What They've Won. It's the game show, guys. I'm Tom Bastek.
And I'm Mike Jacobs. Goodness, it is a stormy day here, so apologies if you hear claps of thunder in the background periodically.
Oh, well, you know, we've just got a little wind and a little rain, but not too bad. It's just been really foggy up here in the mountains, dude. Really foggy.
I bet that's pretty, though. I like mountain fog.
It's okay until this past weekend. We drove up into the mountains to see like to get up into the cloud level, and the pea soup got so thick I couldn't see 5 feet in front of the car, and I got really scared coming back down.
Oh yeah, no, that's a terrifying drive. Like when there are those swervy roads and super steep and
yeah. It was like a 15% grade, and they were like, use low gear, save brakes, and I'm like, I'm just staying on the brake the whole time.
Right?
I don't care. I will use up all my brakes.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was interesting. It really was. Okay, great. Storms your way. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, they've just been hanging overhead all day, and of course it waits right until the moment we start recording to finally kick in, but there you go.
Hey, you know what? It just echoes and makes your incredible voice that much deeper.
Oh, well, there you go. We're in the quiet storm. You know, I learned an interesting thing recently, that apparently the reason why rain and thunderstorms are like calming and soothing and used for like meditation and stuff, it's because on an instinctual level, all animals are avoiding the rain, so we know that there's no predators. So it like harkens back to the caveman times of like, we can relax, right? It is soothing time because we know that we don't have to be on guard. Everything else is out in a way.
Yeah, nothing's coming to eat us.
Exactly.
Well, you learn something new every day, man. That's fantastic.
There you go. I love my little tidbits.
Yeah, man, that's great. All right, we do have just one bit of housekeeping, which is I want to talk about real quick, Mike, our special trivia event that the game show guys are doing coming up on February 21st.
Yeah, man, February 21st, 4 p.m. Eastern time. That is Eastern U.S. There, I learned also recently there is another Eastern. I had a customer got confused on which Eastern I meant, and I still don't know which one they were referring to, but apparently there's another one. So yeah, 4 p.m. Eastern United States time, February 21st. We are doing a trivia game for free for the entire world. Whoever wants to join in can. So yeah, get up your team together. Come join us on Twitch and play along for fabulous prizes.
Yeah, the link will be on the social and on the website. It's basically twitch.tv/thegameshowguys.
Yeah, well, we figured out how to do it entirely through this Twitch channel, so you can whisper answers to me, and that way you can set up, I guess, a Zoom call if you want, or Google Meet, or however you choose to get with your team together virtually or in person if you're, being safe about it.
Well, yeah, we also have some people that play by themselves, which is amazing.
That's true too. What's interesting is I guess it stands to reason, but the people who play by themselves typically either win or do very, very well.
Less fighting amongst the group.
Ooh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Very true.
Yeah, sometimes you just go with your gut. If you don't know one, you go with your gut. Boom, you get it right. Or you don't know one. You bring it up to the team. The team doesn't know, and then you guys end up deciding on something else.
Yep. I will say, in my 11 years of doing trivia, I have almost never seen a wrong answer crossed out and the right answer put, but I almost always see a correct answer crossed out for a wrong answer.
Right.
So always go with your gut.
Absolutely. And by the way, the reason why we're doing this is because you can hire us out to come and do for your family, your friends, your business, whatever you'd like to do. If you'd like to have an online game that we could do, help bring your team together, it's available. You can go to the game show guys website, which is on our website, which is tellthemwhatthey'vewon.com/hire-us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the that HBO free weekend preview. You can check out what our offerings are, get a little free sample, and then the aforementioned fabulous prizes are discounts and even free events from us, the Game Show Guys.
You know, you made it sound so good with the HBO free weekend. I always equate it to like we give you the first sample of crack cocaine for free, and then we charge you for everything else.
Well, look, okay, just because all the cool kids are doing it doesn't mean that it's crack cocaine, all right? Trying to run a family show here, Tom.
It is a family show.
But the adage of first time free stands true.
All right. So that being said, let's bring in everybody's favorite family guy, Mr. Christian.
Light up your cigarette, crack open a beer, put the kiddos to bed. From chaos around the world to carnage in your very own front yard, it's time for the news.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mike. This is the news brought to you by BuzzerBlog.com. Jeopardy champion Braden Smith is dead at the age of 24 due to complications following surgery. A lot of people remember him from the last couple months of Alex Trebek's run on Jeopardy before Trebek passed away at the age of 80. He was what they called Alex's last great champion. He had 5 really incredible games, was getting ready to play in the Tournament of Champions this year. His mother wrote on Twitter, quote, "We are heartbroken to share that our dear Braden Smith recently passed away unexpectedly. We are so grateful that Braden was able to live out his dream on Jeopardy." A lot of people talking about this. It really made the rounds in terms of media, in terms of the news. He was a really well-liked guy, especially in the trivia circles.
So tragic. I mean, so young, 24. Oh,
Yeah, it really is heartbreaking.
Unbelievable.
well, thoughts and prayers to him and his family. God bless. All right, Christian, what else you got for us?
Well, on Sunday night, we were supposed to be treated to the premiere of a show on Fox called Cherries Wild that they had started promoting a couple months ago. Big 3-story tall slot machine hosted by Jason Biggs. Yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about that. I remember that. Yeah.
Right. So we were supposed to get
Jason Biggs. Oh.
Remember that guy? Saving Silverman is like one of my favorite movies ever. Anyway,
God.
so
Right,
yeah, so
go ahead.
Cherries Wild was supposed to premiere on Sunday night, and what I believe is the first time ever for a game show, the premiere episode was preempted due to extended coverage of the Daytona 500 because of their weather delays. So the first episode was postponed. We're now going to see that this coming Sunday, the 21st, and well, hopefully, I don't know what that means for the show. That doesn't seem to instill great confidence, does it?
I mean, here's the thing. I understand. Trust me, Daytona 500, Fox is putting their money in there. You know what I'm saying? I get that. And I also get preempting that show for that because the show is pre-recorded. It's fine. It can go on whenever. I don't know if anybody was, I mean, you, Christian, you're in the circles a lot more than we are. Was anybody going to watch this thing?
I haven't seen anybody really talk about it. It seems like a huge vehicle to sell Pepsi. I mean, Cherry Pepsi is like the sponsor for this show.
Yeah.
And we actually got a little bit of I don't know if it's a clip, but at least a photo of what the show is going to be like. Apparently, it's a really easy sort of trivia game, presumably to get people watching it. One of the things I noticed was that questions are answered and actions are performed on the show by hitting giant 2-foot-tall cans of Pepsi.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I'm personally not the right person to ask about product placements. I mean, I consider myself a marketing individual. I've worked for marketing for a long time, but product placement has its place and it doesn't. Like, I'm not pleased that Red Bull has gone around the world and bought up soccer teams and named them the Red Bulls. Like, it just doesn't do it for me. But at the same time, it's going to come down to, I think with this one, and Mike would agree with me, what's the gameplay? What's the show? How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, things like that to me are always fairly transparent. Like, I don't know, whatever. If you want to slap a giant Pepsi logo on a game show, you know, at the end of the day, I don't really care one way or the other if you make a good game show. Now, where product placement goes bad, watch the first Fantastic Four movie. All it is Burger King and Mountain Dew all over the place and a garbage pile of a movie.
Wasn't there a movie based on Battleship with Rihanna?
Yes, there was. Oh, man. Speaking of board games and the movies, they're also working on a Monopoly movie, so watch out for that.
Oh, you know, I read they're making a movie based on Uno.
Yeah.
What?
That takes place in, like, underground hip-hop Atlanta.
What? Really?
Yeah. I think it's
Really?
going to be, I swear, there's some, I
we're
forget
Googling
his
that.
name, but there's
Yeah,
some
right.
big name rapper that's attached to it. But, yeah, I did read that a couple days ago.
All right, Christian, what else you got?
And finally, in news this week, And finally, in news this week, a classic British game show has a brand new host. Now, Countdown is a game of letters and numbers that's been on the air continuously on Channel 4 in the UK since 1982. Now, its latest host is a name that might be familiar to a lot of game show fans. Anne Robinson, the former host of The Weakest Link in the US and the UK version. By the way, did you know she hosted The Weakest Link in the UK for 17 years?
What?
Do you know it lasted for, I think, like 2 or 3 years, maybe 3 years in America? It lasted from 2000 to 2017 in the UK. Isn't that incredible?
That is. It's
My
wild.
goodness. I was wondering where they found her when they dug her up, because I was like, who is this lady?
She
But,
was
oh
a
my
journalist,
God.
I think, if I'm not mistaken.
But 17
that was-
years.
17 years that show lasted in the UK.
Wow.
Well, she's
God bless her.
Absolutely. Well, she's the new host of Countdown. So no word on when that starts yet. I know Mike is. I'm positive Mike is familiar with Countdown. Tom, I'm not sure if you've ever seen it.
You know, I think I've seen bits and pieces of one episode because when you said Countdown, I was like, oh, I know that one. You know what I'm saying? But I haven't like continuously watched like a bunch of them. My question is she going to go with the typical, mean, nasty host, or is she going to be more jovial in this one?
I mean, only time will tell. Countdown is a very quiet, family-friendly, very sedate show. So I would be surprised if she went with that character. I don't think that's who she is.
It wouldn't fit with the vibe of the show.
It would be great though, wouldn't it, Mike?
I mean, it would make for some interesting television. I'd watch it.
It sure would. It sure would.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get a chance to scope some of that out if they drop some of those on YouTube.
Based on what I know about your preference for the game shows that you enjoy, Tom, my prediction is that you would hate Countdown.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there's not a lot of show there. It's all game.
All right. What about this week in game show history?
All right. So this one is a bit personal for me because I love this guy. We are going back to February 17th, 1986. That is the day that Rod Roddy was selected as the new permanent announcer of The Price is Right. Now, Rod Roddy was Rod Roddy with the big colorful jackets and that very unique voice. He beat a lot of other professional announcers for that role following the passing of Johnny Olsen, who was the first announcer of The Price is Right, as well as dozens of other shows. He passed away in 1985, and there were sort of on-air tryouts to replace him. Rod Roddy did the best out of all of them. He got the job permanently in 1986 and stayed for at least 2 decades following. So, he's just one of my favorites. You know, Rod Roddy's big, colorful jackets, he used to travel to Thailand and pick out these fabrics by hand because they had all these unique garments, unique fabrics, and he would bring them back and have them made into suits. He was actually, and a lot of people don't know this, Rod Roddy was the United Nations ambassador to Thailand.
Wow.
Cool, huh?
That's phenomenal. I never knew that. He's always been kind of a personal hero of mine. I love his announcing style, and I've sort of
mimic it. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, absolutely.
And I've always wondered that about his jackets. I have spent many an hour trying to find jackets like that, and I mean, they just don't really exist. I mean, they do, but not for a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah, but Mike, you've got some pretty classic, great jackets, dude.
I mean, I do, and it takes a long time to find them, but I'm always on the lookout for more. So if anybody knows where to find Rod Roddy style insane jackets, I'm on board. Let me know.
Hey, speaking of which, because we're talking about news, I know Christian, Mike, you, me, and Mike all talked about it in our chat. But speaking of jackets, it's really nice to see that a lot of the clothing from Alex Trebek's personal jackets, shirts, ties were donated to folks that are either homeless or underemployed and are going for new jobs, and that's pretty cool.
Yes,
so
I love that.
I absolutely love it, and I think it's great. But what me and my wife were talking about this, and we brought up something, and I'm not actually sure which way it goes. Are they literally giving the clothes to the people, or are they giving the clothes to a charity that could then auction the clothes off and get even more money? I feel like the value of the clothes would be, I guess, stretched better as historical collector's items or whatever than they would clothes on someone's back.
You know, it's interesting because my wife has donated a lot of her pantsuits and whatnot that she's had for work that she's either, just done with or outgrown or outstyled or whatever, to a woman's organization that does the same thing. And obviously she doesn't have the clout that Alex Trebek has. But, the other thing is, too, is that how long is that going to take? How many people is that going to involve? You've got so many working parts to get that auction up and running, to raise money for blah, 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 blah.
I've been doing a little bit of research, actually, while you guys are talking, so I think I can maybe shed some light on this. The show said the donation includes 14 suits, 58 dress shirts, 300 neckties, 25 polo shirts, 14 sweaters, 9 sports coats, 9 pairs of dress shoes, and more directly from the Jeopardy studio. Now, the clothes will be distributed by the Doe Fund to be worn on job interviews. So it sounds like these are going directly to people who need them.
Okay, so but that also kind of makes it sound like it's maybe rented out, or
it could be
suits available to someone who needs it to look professional for a job interview, and then
I think that's where and to be honest, I think that's the best way you do it. You treat it like you're renting a tux kind of thing,
Yeah.
Wow, all the clothes were packed by his son.
Yeah,
wow.
Can you imagine that? Well, I will tell you, as someone who's lost both his mother and father when he was very young, packing up that stuff is not an easy task. Both spiritually and physically, for that matter. So my heart goes out to them for sure.
I have to imagine, though, that as difficult as something like that would be, I haven't had to go through something like that yet, thankfully. It's got to be incredibly cathartic in a way, though, I don't know. I could see getting a good sense of closure out of doing something like that.
I made a ton of deals at the garage sale when my mom passed for all the stuff that was in the house, but I only made deals for people who were really in need of that stuff. When the dealers came around in the early morning, I didn't drop my prices at all. And when the family of 14 got out of the back of a van and they were looking for a new living room set, I gave it to them for nothing.
Yeah.
Because they needed it.
Exactly.
So I get it. I get it. So there is definitely some peace in knowing that the stuff that your folks had has gone on to do good in the world.
Absolutely.
All right, Christian, it's time now, man. We're not incredibly hopeful, but we're hopeful we may get you this week.
Oh, we still doing it this week? Damn it. Okay. All right, here we go.
What? What are you worried about? You have
I'm not worried about
every week.
I'm not worried.
You want us to stop this so that you finish undefeated.
Well, the thing is, no matter how many questions I answer correctly, I still get actually nervous. Like, this isn't even podcast me talking. This is Christian talking. I get nervous for this part.
Interesting.
Well, let's bring him down, Mike.
All right, let's see what happens here. All right, so where are we? What is the date here? We are talking September 29th, 1969, the premiere of this week's show, Sale of the Century on NBC. There are 2 other game shows to premiere on NBC on that very same date. Give me the names of those 2 game shows.
I don't think that's the right date, but I could be wrong.
It's literally the first sentence on Wikipedia.
Go ahead, Christian.
We're talking September 29th, 1969.
Correct.
Let me think. 1969 was a crazy time in game shows because a lot of the classic shows that had run throughout the 60s, like The Match Game, there was a show called You Don't Say that was on for years. Those ended in 1969 and ended sort of abruptly. I don't think that there was much... I don't think that anybody saw that coming. And in terms of premieres, you had a few. So I'm thinking of 2 game shows that premiered in September of 1969. Now, the first one, and I actually had the privilege of talking with the host of this show for an episode of my podcast, Stranger Than Christian. I did that a few months ago. His name was Jim McCrell, and there was a show produced by Chuck Barris called The Game Game. And The Game Game was like, it was sort of a forerunner to like those BuzzFeed type quizzes where you kind of like find out something about yourself or what kind of person you are. And they had one contestant play against 3 other celebrities who would all answer these questions. And the idea was that you'd learn something personal about them. And, so that show was in syndication, premiered September 29th, 1969. Now there's another show, also syndicated, wasn't on a network, premiered in 1969. And it had a few hosts throughout its run, and I'll be honest, I forget who originally hosted. I think it was No, I don't forget, actually. So the show was originally hosted by a guy named Hal March, who was originally famous for being the host of the $64,000 question a decade prior. So he hosted a show called It's Your Bet. And It's Your Bet had two celebrity couples, and they would secretly bet points based on whether they thought their partner could answer. And it was interesting. It was a mix of personal type newlywed game sort of questions and actual trivia. So they would pick up a phone, hear the question, and then they would bet on whether they thought their partner would or wouldn't know the answer, which was kind of a fun show. That was on for a good 3 or 4 years, I believe. So, yeah, those are my guesses.
All right, well, so here's the thing. Neither of those are what I was looking for. Both of those are correct.
Oh, okay.
There were two other game shows that I've had to look these up as you were looking, because it was not the answer I had in front of me. Well, like I said, the Game and It's Your Bet absolutely both premiered September 29th, 1969. That is correct.
Is that right?
Yes,
oh my
100%.
God, how is that right?
Like I said, it was not the answer that I have here in front of me, so I had to Google it real quick.
Yes, that's not even the question we were going to ask.
I also would have accepted Letters to Laugh In and Name Droppers. Those were the other two that premiered on that same day.
Yes, and if I'm not mistaken, those actually replaced the shows I mentioned, You Don't Say, and The Match Game.
All right, well, so hang on. Like I said, we got multiple parts here. This is how we have to run Stump the Chump now. It has to be multi-part questions.
This is killing me, because this isn't even the question that I had designed for this. And,
I know.
And he's gotten it right, and it was the wrong question.
Well,
this is insane.
So here's the quote unquote right question. The 80s show, January 3rd, 1983. The same thing happened. The new American Sale of the Century premiered, along with two other shows on the same date. What were they?
Okay, 1983. Now I know, because I'm a huge Price is Right fan, that's actually also the premiere date of Plinko. That's the
okay. Well, see, that was gonna be part 3, so you ruined that.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Okay. I'm sorry.
Fine, answer the rest of it. Know it all.
Okay, and we're looking for two other shows that premiered in 1983.
January 3rd, 1983.
Yeah. Okay. So I know there was a show hosted by Peter Tamarkin called Hitman. And Hitman was like, I feel like we've talked about it a couple times on this podcast.
I think we did when we talked about Peter Tamarkin at one point. There's definitely a possibility we mentioned.
Right, yeah. So it was the kind of thing where they show you a little film or a slideshow based on a certain topic, and all the questions would have to do with that film. And I thought it was a fun show. They tried to shoehorn some kind of like 1980s video game references into it. Like they tried to make it like a Missile Command type of thing, where if you got a question wrong or you got one right, you got to take away a hitman from somebody else. And it was like trivia with tower defense mechanism, which was kind of cool. Only lasted a year. In terms of another, I'm trying to think what was going on in 1983. That was a big day for NBC because you had Hitman, you had Sailor. Oh, Betty White, Just Men. She actually won an Emmy for hosting that show.
That is correct.
That's
Come on, man.
Sorry.
Oh boy.
Oh.
I mean, at what point do we just drop this segment altogether?
I mean, I can't even ask the wrong question and get an answer. I mean, all right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to stump or chump, please feel free to submit a question to us. Hopefully you can do better than I have.
I thought those were really good ones.
Thanks, man.
To be fair, they were really good questions.
Oh, yeah, whatever. I'm not even taking that. That's fine. Guys trying to make me feel good at this whole news segment. Y'all trying to make me feel good.
Tom, you're so great.
Yeah. Sale of the Century is this week's game. Speaking of great, Mike and I both in love with this show. Christian, your thoughts?
So great. Such a great show. Like Mike like Mike mentioned, this was a revival of a show that was on NBC back in the late 60s, early 70s. And I mean, just talk about an incredible gameplay mechanic. The idea of answering questions and then being able to buy prizes with the money that you won. It creates this drama. You know, do you think you can beat the people that are sitting next to you? Do you think you will end up the winner of the game? Can you afford to buy these prizes that we're presenting to you? I mean, just made for an incredible show. Also made for an incredible home version. And that's one of the games that I own. I don't know if in your research you've seen the home version of the 80s Sale of the Century.
I did, and I completely omitted it from the episode because when I read about it, I was like, there's no way that's anything good, but apparently I'm wrong.
Oh, it's awesome. So it was half board game, half electronic. It came packaged with this thing they used to sell in the 80s called a Quizzard. And a Quizzard had 6 buttons, and it was like a lockout system. So you had a board game based on Sale of the Century with actual questions from the show and actual buzzers. It was so much fun. This big,
that's really cool,
beautiful box, and I'll take pictures of it for you guys. But yeah, that's one of my favorite home versions ever.
Wow,
cool.
I'm glad I stand corrected on that. I want to check that out now.
Yeah, nice. Super cool.
Well, Christian, how about a plug for the place that I guess has helped bring you to your wonderful knowledge that you have?
Buzzerblog or Quiznote?
Oh.
Yeah,
Toasty.
No, the other one. I'll do the
please.
other one. Yes. Buzzerblog.com is the #1 game show website in the world, whether you're looking for information on new series, returning series, postponed series, reviews, casting information, all about the world of game shows and unscripted entertainment. Buzzerblog.com is the place to go. Thank you very much.
Don't be surprised if we rain out Stump or Chump next week.
I won't be. We'll just push it forward.
Thanks so much, Christian. Have a wonderful week.
My pleasure. You guys too. Thank you.
All right, once again, if you'd like to submit a question for Stump or Chump, all you have to do is send it to us via social and or through the website. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, we've kind of run dry on the questions, and we've gotten a few of like personal questions about people and their interactions with game shows, and those do not count. We won't be asking those. So yeah, we are in need of some more toughies. So please.
Yeah, and although I give Christian a lot of video game credit, let's stay away from video game questions. We're trying to concentrate on the game show questions.
Yes, and I guess particularly American game shows. The non-American game show one, the ones that I asked him, and I don't even think that made it to an episode. So there you go.
There you go. All right. I'm coming up. Our featured game today is Sale of the Century. Mike, one of my favorites from the back in the 80s.
Man, I didn't really remember this show very much. And when we talked about doing it, I don't know what show I was thinking of, but it wasn't this one. This show is awesome.
Yep.
I love it.
This is going to be a good week for me because I'm going to give a high rating for a change, and it's been pretty low lately.
That's fair. Yeah, I got a high rating too. And man, like I watched probably 5 or 6 episodes of this in a row, and I was just grinning like an idiot the whole time. I don't know what it is, but I just love it.
And I have to tell you, it holds up. Like I was answering along with the questions, like watching it, having zero problem. I'm like, this is great. See, this is what I miss about game shows. We'll talk more about it in the rating because I think that there's just some really great stuff that comes out of this that it makes me realize a little bit about what I miss about traditional old school game shows.
Agreed. 100%.
All right, gameplay is coming up next. You've been listening to America's favorite game show podcast. Tell them what they've won. There it is. That's the theme song from Sale of the Century, our featured show on America's favorite game show podcast. Tell them what they've won. Michael, it's time for gameplay, and boy, is there some good gameplay in this one.
Man, there really is. And I hate this disclaimer because I feel like I have to give it every time, but there are different versions of this show, so everything I say gets a little loosey-goosey with values and specifics and whatnot, but just go along with it. This is the general idea. More or less, we got 3 contestants competing head-to-head head, and they get toss-up general knowledge trivia questions. Usually they're not terribly difficult, which I think is actually an appeal of this show. And it's a buzz-in to answer kind of deal. Whoever buzzes in first gets to answer, and if they get it right, they earn $5, adding it to their little pool of money. And if they're wrong, they do lose the money. So it behooves them to not just buzz in willy-nilly. And unlike most other trivia shows, if they get it wrong, it doesn't then pass to other players to get it right. And I think that's, kind of tied in with the idea that the questions are not terribly difficult.
Right.
And it's supposed to be more of a speed thing than it is a true knowledge thing, right?
Yeah. I definitely felt like it also helps speed the game along. Like they get more questions.
That's very true. And yeah, we'll talk about more of this later, but they are speeding through these questions. So occasionally they break up these trivia questions by doing an instant deal. And basically it's whatever contestant is in the lead, they get offered a fabulous prize. And they can buy it at a super low cost. Usually it's between like maybe $4 to $10. In other words, a question or two. And that would be deducted from their current like coffer of what they've won. So in other words, you're taking the chance of no longer being in first place to get a guaranteed prize. You're going to keep that prize even if you don't win the game overall. The idea of the fabulous prize on game show, I think, is the term is used pretty liberally. They had some really good prizes on this show. I was pretty surprised.
Surprise. Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. They had very enticing things. And I think you have to do that. You have to make it where it's enticing. And I remember, did you watch the episode where the guy won the most ever in the history of Sail the Century?
Not to my knowledge, but it may have been on in the binge that I watched.
So I watched a little bit of it, and at one point they give him they offer him for $16. They offer him a $1,500 scooter, and I'm like, okay, well that's easy enough to say no to. Now, man, I'm ahead by 30 points. I'm not giving up half of my lead. I'm good.
Yeah.
And then he comes over and drops $2,000 more on top of the table.
I did see that one, yeah.
And I was like, whoa, okay, now we're at 3,500 for 16, and he was crushing it anyway. I'm like,
well, and that's the thing is they love those little add-ons, and sometimes they would even be secret. Like you would buy a prize, and then you'd hear this little ding, 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 and then all of a sudden there's an envelope with $800 in the back seat of the scooter that you just bought.
Or whatever. Yeah.
In earlier versions of the instant deal, it was actually a toss-up where the contestants would buzz in to buy it. And so it was, keeping with that idea of you had to be quick. But this one was cool because they would have the prize behind a curtain. And if you buzzed in before the curtain was fully pulled back, revealing the prize, you would get charged whatever they were going to pay or, charged to buy it. But you also could not get it. So it's almost like a double whammy because you lose the money and you don't get the prize.
Right.
Yeah, so don't go too quick. So yeah, that again was classic version, and then they later changed it to where it's just the lead contestant buys. 3 times per round there is a fame game round, and basically it's just a different type of question. The host reads out a "Who am I?" question, where basically he just gives details about the person. I was born in Tennessee in 1742 or whatever, giving more and more clues as time goes on. With the clues,
Daniel Boone.
Yes, there it is. You got it correct. Obviously, clues getting more obvious over the course of the question. And same deal. You buzz in, you get it right. And in this one, if you got it right, you got to choose from a board of 9 spaces, concealing various degrees of bonuses. Usually it was, I guess not usually, but the most common thing would be a dollar prize amount of some kind between like 5. I think it went up to like 25, which, not a huge amount of money, but in the scope of this game where you're buying prizes for, $1,000 stereo for $6, like a $25 one is just a massive amount of money in this game.
Yeah, what I liked the best was the bonus cards because that just pushed you that much further ahead for the win.
Right, and you could buy stuff and not have to worry about it taking a hit on your lead or Yeah, you can
was
kind of
so
you can kind of
manual.
tune out in the lightning round at the end and still
Right.
win.
It was so manual too. They flipped the board pieces by hand.
When you watch that, did you feel the thing turning when she rotated it?
Did
Like
I feel it?
Like there was a weird synesthesia that happened when I watched it, but I understood what the sensation felt like of turning one of those things just by watching it turn.
I can't say that I felt that way, but I was really paying attention to every single thing about it. You know, like when they flipped it, I was like, there was definitely a sense of satisfaction feeling it flipped.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like you can tell it like snaps into place kind of at the end there.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah, it definitely goes and it clicks in.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like you get a sensation of what it actually, the tactile sensation of turning it just by watching it.
Okay, so if that's the case, then yes, I did.
Yeah, it was satisfying.
Yes, it was. It certainly was. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm really glad you brought that up because I wasn't going to say anything because I'm going to be like, that's going to be such a waste of time. I'm going to sound like an idiot, but that's awesome.
Anyway, we probably both sound like idiots on a regular basis. And as I've said before, I'm going to say again, so what?
Yeah, who cares? Fair enough. So after the third of that fame game, depending on the version, it's either 3 more questions before it ends or the lightning round, which I think is really cool. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just rapid fire toss up questions. The host goes through as many as he can in, the minute that they give him or whatever it is.
60 seconds. Yeah.
And the contestants just buzz in and try and get them right. And like I said earlier, I think it was the guy that you were talking about that won the most ever, or whatever. The guy with the somewhat gapped teeth. Yeah, he in one of the episodes he won the $25 space on the board and was so far ahead that he just kind of didn't pay attention during the rapid fire round, and the other two fought it out, but neither of them could get enough to overcome. So he just he answered less than half of them and still won.
Yeah, the nice thing is you don't have to worry about it. Only answer the ones that you're absolutely sure of.
Yeah.
And if you don't guess by any means, it's like Final Jeopardy when you're so far ahead that even if they all wagered 100%, you're winning. Wager a penny. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Yeah. No need to get greedy.
Yeah, or $1. I mean, you can't wager a penny, but you know what I'm saying.
Sure. So after all of this, the contestant in the lead, whoever has the most in their coffer. Now, of course, we're not counting the prizes that they bought. If you bought a $6 stereo, you no longer have that $6. That stereo does not count towards your final did you win money.
Right.
And so they basically get to go shopping with whatever their winnings are. And they go to the bonus round where they have a selection of different prizes that they can buy. Now, in theory, they have not yet won enough money to buy the most expensive thing on the show. So they could either buy whatever they could afford, the most expensive thing you can afford. You can't buy multiple things, as far as I could tell anyways. Or you can come back the next episode and try and bank more. I get that. I read something about there's a strategy of trying to win enough money to buy everything on the show, but I don't see how that's possible because you buy something and then you're done. So maybe you can buy more than one thing if you can afford it.
I think that's the way it works. Yeah, I think if you had let's say you had $100 and one thing was 75 and the other thing was 25, you could get both.
Okay.
So I think the idea is, if you could save up enough, you could literally buy every single thing on the floor.
Right. And that absolutely makes sense. But I guess the idea is that, so here's my question though. Let's say there was a $25 thing, a $50 thing, and a $100 thing. You have $100. Do you have to get the $100 thing, or can you get the other two cheaper things?
I think you get the other two cheaper things and then walk away, or then go and that other $25 is banked until the next day.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. I think if you did that, you don't bank that $25 in the next day because you're choosing to buy, and when you buy, you retire. And so from what I read, you buy the most expensive thing, but I wasn't certain if that was just do that because it's the best prize, or if it's you have to.
It's so interesting knowing that you have to pay taxes on this stuff. I'd be like buying nothing.
Well, I mean, that's a good point too. Be like,
I just want the cash.
Yeah, I'll take the $75 I won. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I just want. You're going to give me $1,000 scooter for $16. I'm still going to have to pay taxes on $1,000.
Right? Plus, I'll look like a dork on my scooter.
Hey, go
kidding.
easy on this scooter.
I'm just kidding. I actually considered getting one for a very long time.
Well, I will tell you this. I won't ride on one personally because I will look like an olive on a toothpick. But I do recommend them for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, my deal breaker ended up being that I would have to get on the highway too much for it. I wanted it to commute back and forth to work, but going non-highway routes, it just didn't make fiscal sense.
Especially where you live, that's an hour and a half, the non-highway.
Oh, well, now it is. Yeah, this was way back when I was living in the city, though. So
okay.
Bad. Yeah. So I mean, that's gameplay. The only other thing that I thought was kind of cool, which I mean, I don't know, it's not that charitable, but if you get to that bonus round and you cannot even afford the cheapest thing, the lowest value prize, they let you have it anyways for whatever it is you earned. So you always get some sort of prize.
See, that's nice. That's better than a consolation prize that's like, hey, look, you made it this far, you didn't even have enough money, we're still going to give you a blankety blank.
It's absolutely true, and like we've always said, that the consolation prizes are great, but I also have to think, like, that probably didn't happen very often, right? Like, it's got to be really hard to get that far in the game and only have, less than $6 or whatever. Like, these deals are really deals of the century.
And I got to assume that the producers are backstage going, hey, get that toaster and push that out there for $6.
Yeah.
I mean, so they can afford something.
That's a pretty good point, yeah.
All right, well, that is gameplay. Mike, I love it. I mean, I love it because obviously there's the trivia element too, which I know you love the trivia part. I love it that the trivia questions aren't too difficult, that a lot of them are, basic knowledge questions that you can, rattle off. And then you've got this whole idea of the strategy of do you buy, do you wait? Do you buy, do you wait? If you jump in too quick, you could be eliminating yourself from possible, more money. It's interesting.
For sure. And I think that's ultimately what really grabbed me about the gameplay, is that you very rarely see the prize be a active part of the strategy of the game.
Right.
Now, I will say there was a point where I've used this example several times now. It was $1,000 stereo for $6.
Right.
That stereo was so cool. I'd have taken that in a heartbeat and been like, I'm done. Can I just walk away with this?
Yeah. Well, then that's the other nice thing. You buy the prize, it's yours to keep regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you lose, you still get that
and that
prize.
was like one of the episodes I watched, like everybody had bought something, and so they all had at least one prize and they left. And I was like, now see, that's a game show.
Agreed.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about the history of this game show. You've been listening to America's favorite game show podcast. Tell them what they've won. Welcome back. Segment number 3, episode number 36. Just 3 more left, or four more left. 40. So we finish at 40, right, Mike?
Yeah, we will finish at 40. So yeah, 4 more after this one.
4 more after this before the season ends, and then we get a break.
Yeah,
and then
it's exciting.
Yeah, well, I think it's exciting because we get to do a cool episode.
That's what I was getting to. That's what I'm so excited about, is doing another fantastic in between season episode.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And then it's also kind of nice to refresh, and then we're coming back really hardcore. So that's nice too.
True. Season 3 coming in with a bang.
Yep, can't wait. All right, we are at the history point for our featured game show, which this week is Sail the Century. I mean, I can't profess my love for this show enough, but Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, there's not a lot in the history here. It's a fairly innocuous game show, but starting on September 29th, 1969, as we mentioned in the news, Sail of the Century's first ever premiere on the first run, NBC daytime, 11 a.m. is when it gets scheduled. It was hosted by an actor by the name of Jack Kelly, probably probably not known too much these days, but I knew him as one of the Maverick brothers on the classic TV Western Maverick.
Maverick, yeah. I never watched a lot of it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They later made a movie out of it with Mel Gibson as
Mel
Maverick.
Gibson, yep,
But
absolutely.
yeah, so on the show, there's actually 3 Mavericks. There's 2 brothers, and then they introduced a cousin later on as well too. But yeah,
that's when it jumped the shark, I'm sure.
yeah. Well, and it was. I get a lot of these Westerns mixed up. My dad was a big fan of them, so I would like see them in the background. But if I remember correctly, it wasn't like every once in a while they would be together. I don't know if there was ever one with all 3, but generally it was like each episode was about a different one and their exploits. They would sort of like take turns being. Anyways, we're getting way off the track here. So Jack Kelly eventually leaves to go back to acting full time, and he's replaced by a Major League Baseball catcher named Joe Garagiola. Gargonzola. I don't know how to pronounce that, but
Garagiola.
There you go. Sure. Yeah, apparently former baseball player turned game show host. I guess this version did well enough. It ran for 5 years. It's not a terrible run. And ended up running its course in 1973 and was incidentally replaced by Alex Trebek in his Wizard of Odds, the first American game show hosted by him. After that, what was that? I said it was 73 when it ends, and then it continues on for another year in syndication, but apparently had a lot of troubles getting picked up. For some reason, nobody wanted to carry it. I guess that kind of makes sense, in that, I don't know, if someone's like, hey, we just canceled this game show, but do you want to pick it up for syndication? You'd be like, why'd you cancel it? Why would I want to pick up something you just canceled, right? Like,
right.
It just doesn't seem like a great move. So, yeah, it ends up not lasting too long after that. And what the revival of it is actually kind of an interesting story because an Australian TV mogul named Reg Grundy, which is a very Australian name, he bought the rights to the show in 1980 and developed it for Australian TV, made it into its own TV show down there, and it became a huge hit. Australians loved it. So then he was able to resell his version back to NBC, and then they revived it in 1983. Wow. So like good on him for being able to, I guess, spot a, we've always say, how would you make this show better? It's looked like he was like, I know how to do it and I'm going to do it and then make money off it.
That's great.
Yeah. Right. So the new version picks up January 3rd in 83, hosted by Jim Perry. And man, he does such a great job in this show. He's just a very likable guy, and he makes it's just so effortless, his hosting abilities. He knows exactly his inflection of words, I think, is really what he's good at. He knows how to say things, which I know sounds like a very simple skill, but it takes a lot to say that, to do that for
it does.
a game
No,
show
I
hosting.
see. Now, me being a voice guy, I totally get that. I mean, I honestly do.
Oh, I meant to look this up as well. Speaking of voice guy, I'm fairly certain that the voice guy in the 80s version, the announcer, I need to look this up and confirm. I'll do that before the end of the episode. I'm pretty sure he was on Animaniacs.
It's like as one of the characters?
I don't know if he was like a regular character. I think he was just like a various voices and announcer kind of stuff. I don't know about the announcer for the show, but like, I don't know. Just the name the voice sounded so familiar to me, and I forgot to look it up.
Wow, interesting. Okay,
we'll come back to that.
Great.
But anyways, this new version did very, very well for NBC and held strong ratings against some very stiff competition. Press Your Luck, Card Sharks, Pyramid, Family Feud. Not all at the same time, of course, but just over the course of its tenure, it was up against all those different shows and continued to sort of prevail. I don't necessarily know that it was top of the ratings, but it did well enough to continue on. Ran for 7 seasons. And ended up coming to completion on March 24th, 1989. Incidentally replaced by Scrabble, which we talked about earlier, one of my favorites.
Oh.
So, that's back-to-back favorites now. And interestingly enough, the 80s version, it also had a syndicated run, which also was not picked up by many stations and also lasted less than 1 year. So syndication, not this show's strong point. But that's it. That's all we got for the history. Did not, like I say, it ran for a long time, but didn't have a whole lot going on as far as like changes and stuff. At one point it changed time slots by a half hour, I think, but it didn't really affect it much, which, typically shows don't handle that well, but this one did. So there you go.
Yeah, it's interesting because to me, this is a show that I was watching, and I don't know, you said you binged, what, 5 or 6 of them, right?
Oh, yeah, at least.
To me, I could watch this show all day. Like, I'm surprised it did not do well in syndication.
I totally agree. And we talked about this earlier, the playability of it, or play along ability. The questions are easy enough that it's approachable by everybody. It's also a speed game, so that it's not in the difficulty, it's who can come up with it quickly. And yeah, it just, something about it makes it so easy to watch. It's just, yeah, that's the only way I can phrase it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. As I was rewatching more and more episodes of it this week, I was really, really enjoying it a lot. So what I love about it, again, and this is something I wanted to just chat about quickly, is that we talked a lot about over the last couple of weeks about the pacing of games and how that they've become a lot more drama, and how the old games were a lot faster, and they tried to do as much as they could to get as much content in as possible within a half an hour.
Right.
And I really figured out that I appreciate that, and I love a game like this that really is about, let's create our drama by having two people go head to head on as many questions as they can get in 60 seconds.
Yeah, that lightning round it's so much fun to watch, and it's really impressive when they're really good at it, like how fast they're getting it. And again, it's not that it's impressive that it's a thing they know. It's impressive that they can get it so quickly, and sometimes even with such little information from the question, they'll buzz in before he's even done reading it.
Yeah, the recall is great, and I assume, and I understand there is a certain amount of guessing in there that happens, and they
Sure.
just guess right, and I get that, but at the same time, it's still impressive as hell.
It really is. And like I said earlier, I just love the idea that the prize is something that can change your standings in the game overall. That's a very unique aspect of a game that we don't see very often, if at all.
Yeah. Normally, you'd either collect prizes and you only win them if you close out on time, or close out and win the round, or it goes the other way, which is you gain money and you get it, or prizes and you don't get it if you don't win the whole thing. It's
Right. And like the only comparable thing I can think of is in concentration with the takes, like that there's some strategy of what to take and when, but even then it doesn't affect your standing in the game, right? It's just a, prize variable. It's not a game variable. I think it's just a super interesting twist. I will say real quickly, the announcer that I was talking about, his name is Jay Stewart. His only credited occupation seems to be game show announcer. I don't see anything that indicates he was on Animaniacs. So I think I was wrong there, but I would have to imagine that the person I'm thinking of maybe modeled his voice after him. I don't know.
As long as you think it's right, that's all that really matters to me.
There's a connection there, I'm telling you.
Oh, so crazy. All right. Well, I guess it's time for us to do a rating.
Yeah. What do we rate out of dollars or deals, or I don't know?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe let's do deals. I like deals. We haven't done deals yet. Let's do deals.
Let's do deals.
All right. So I'll go first, I guess. This ranked really high for me. I love the hosts. I loved the game. I loved really the pace of play. I really wish they'd bring it back again, and it'd be interesting to see people do it nowadays with prizes that are enticing. Because remember, we talked about how those prizes had to be enticing,
right?
In order for that to happen, for people to want to give it up,
right? Exactly.
So I'd love to see them do it again. It kind of reminds me of the Banker's Offer a little bit in Deal or No Deal, which I'm not like a huge fan of the way that was presented, but I understand what they're doing. it's a this for that kind of trade, a deal like a let's make a deal kind of trade. Like what's behind, you can keep your prize or take what's behind door number 2.
Well, and I think you touch on an interesting point bringing up Deal or No Deal, because I think this is basically Deal or No Deal done right, where it's like A, there's a game. Okay, so B, there is
wow,
B,
yeah.
there is a way that you are earning prizes. There's a way that you can, achieve those prizes. And again, the prizes change the outcome. You're getting prizes that are enticing to make you at least make it a difficult choice whether or not to take the deal. It just, like I say, it's Deal or No Deal done right.
So for that being said, I'm going to give this a 4.25 for game shows. For what do we do? Deals. So 4.25 deal. I'm going to give this 4.25 deals for my rating. I think I could even go 4.5, but I'm going to go with 4.25. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with all of your points. There's really not any fault I can find with this show. I really do like the quick pace of it. I would love to see a new version of it. I can't think of any reasons to fault it, but I also don't think I can go over 4 for reasons that I'm not entirely sure of. Once I get into the 4.25, it feels too high. Ultimately, it's a solid show. It's great. No complaints. But yeah, a solid 4 deals.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that's all the time we've got for this week, Mike.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you so much, Christian. Thank you, BuzzerBlog. Thank you, everyone who's writing in. And please give us some Stump the Trump questions that Christian will get wrong.
Yeah, gosh, we could use those. Trust me, we really could. Tune in again next time. We'll bring you the latest and greatest in the world of game shows, as well as a brand new featured show, too.
And remember, you can always catch us online, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, tellthemwhatthey'vewon.com.
Please subscribe, share, like, drop a review if you like what you've heard.
And if you don't like it, I hope somebody confuses your career with a random voice actor on Animaniacs.
See you next week, Mike.
Yeah, sorry about that one. Bye, Tom.
You've been listening to America's favorite game show podcast, Tell Them What They've Won. A JTech audio production. Copyright 2021. No part of this podcast may be reproduced by anyone without the express written consent of the creators. For more information or to contact us, please go to tellthemwhatthey'vewon.com.
All right, Tom, what'd you learn this week?
Mike, I think that what I've learned is it's more confirming what I thought I already knew. But I've learned that I really like the fast pace of the old school games, and that I really wish we would get some more games that would do less drama on the drawing it out and more drama on the two people battling head to head.
I agree. It was a refreshing change of pace when the drama trend kicked in, but it would be nice to have a kind of throwback to the older style.
Absolutely. How about you?
I learned I really want a Cadillac. I really want a Cadillac Eldorado. At the opening of so many of these episodes, they show this gorgeous dark blue Cadillac Eldorado.
Yeah.
And it, I don't know anything about cars, but man, that is a gorgeous piece of machinery. I want that real bad.
When I hit the lottery, I promise that's the first car I buy you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Copyright 2021, a JTech audio production.